Godspeed to the city streets. We began to feel the fire. We rise like tall buildings.
With breaking news right now, deputies in Tunica County are searching for this man. They say he is armed and dangerous.
On the outside, some of us look like we have it all together. A family, a home, a quiet life on a peaceful street. But what if that was a lie? What if the place you were supposed to be safest was the one place you were in the most danger? For 10 years, Nikeria lived with a secret. Not a small one. A secret that would one day shatter the stillness of her Robinsonville neighborhood. A place where people said nothing like this had ever happened. Have you ever seen something wrong and looked away? Or watched a friend's relationship and felt that knot in your stomach, but told yourself it was none of your business? We all do it. We tell ourselves we don't need to get involved. But what happens when that choice costs a life? You might be watching this thinking, that could never be me. But the truth is, the warning signs are often missed until it's too late. Hit that subscribe button right now. Don't risk missing the story that could save your life one day, or the life of someone you know. What happens when a decade of silent threats finally explodes? This is the story of Nikeria Jude and the fatal Friday night when her private struggle became a public tragedy. And what they found in her home was just the beginning. Welcome to Unseen True Crime Stories, where the darkest secrets and untold cases come to light. Consider subscribing and tapping the notification bell. That way, you won't miss our next true crime story. The eruption on Soleil Drive. Robinsonville, Mississippi, is a town that prides itself on being uneventful. A place where the biggest news is usually a high school football game or a new diner opening. Residents on Soleil Drive have called this neighborhood home for years, describing it as usually quiet. One woman, who has lived there since 2011, said she had never had any issues like this. That sense of peace was violently taken away on a Friday evening, July 11th, at exactly 7:06 p.m. The call came into the Tunica County Sheriff's Office. Shots fired. That was all they had, but it was enough. Deputies, who were used to responding to noise complaints or minor traffic accidents, arrived on Soleil Drive to a site that would stay with them for a lifetime. The air was thick with the smell of gunpowder, and the silence that followed the gunfire was even more jarring than the shots themselves. Inside the home, the scene was one of utter devastation. 3 bodies lay wounded. Officers moved with a sense of urgency and dread, their flashlights cutting through the dim light. They found a young woman, 30-year-old Nikeria Jude, still on the floor. Paramedics rushed in, but it was already too late. Nikeria was gone, but she wasn't alone.
Thank you so much for staying with us. I'm Carolyn Serta. Deputies say Markello Braxton is wanted for killing the mother of his child and shooting his 2 children. Braxton's 6-year-old daughter and 20-year-old son are recovering in Memphis hospitals tonight. Fox 13's Jeremy Pierre spoke to a domestic violence advocate who's overcome with sadness over the death of another domestic violence victim.
Deputies are still putting the pieces together in this investigation. They say 41-year-old Markello Braxton is a big piece to the puzzle. That's why they need to find him immediately.
Nikeria was 30 years old. She was just really getting started.
Deputies in Tunica County responded to this home on Soleil Drive in Robinsonville after 7 Friday night. Deputies say when they got to the home, they found 3 people shot. Investigators in Tunica County say 30-year-old Nikeria Jude died on the scene. 2 others airlifted to hospitals in Memphis. Braxton and Jude's 6-year-old daughter went to Labana Children's Hospital, while
nearby, a 6-year-old girl and a 24-year-old man lay critically wounded, fighting for every breath. They needed a level of medical attention that wasn't available in Tunica County, so emergency teams worked furiously to prepare them for air transport to a Memphis hospital. They had no time to lose. As the medevac choppers filled the night sky, a terrifying realization settled over the scene. This was not a home invasion or a random act of violence. The investigation focused immediately on one man. He was the young girl's father and the man who had been in a relationship with Nigeria for 10 years. 41-year-old Markello Braxton was identified as the shooter. He was immediately considered armed, dangerous, and on the run. The manhunt began that night, leaving the entire community in a state of fear. The man who did this was not a stranger. He was a part of their family, and he was still out there. The hunt for Markello Braxton was a race against the clock. The Tunica County Sheriff's Office wasn't alone. They brought in the U.S. Marshals Service, expanding the search. The public was on high alert, warned that the man was armed and dangerous. For days, the quiet town of Robinsonville felt a constant fear. They knew he was out there, possibly watching. He wasn't a phantom. He was a presence, a ghost haunting the very neighborhood where he'd just committed a horrific act. As law enforcement combed the area, a more important and much longer story began to come to light. The tragedy on Soleil Drive wasn't a sudden event. It was the final chapter in a decade-long pattern of escalating conflict. Over 10 years, the Tunica County Sheriff's Office had responded to 7 separate domestic disturbance calls involving Nigeria and Markello. The first was in July 2015. The most recent, just months before the shooting, in March 2025. 7 times, someone had to call the police. 7 times, the system got a chance to intervene. What happened in that decade that nobody saw coming? Or worse, what did they see and choose to ignore? I know a lot of you watch these stories and think, I'd never ignore a red flag like that. But if you're still watching and you haven't subscribed, maybe you're not as quick to act as you think you are. Go to the comments and tell me why you're willing to risk missing the signs. I'm genuinely curious. The search for Markello Braxton ended on Monday, July 14th. Just after 4:40 p.m., a body was found in a wooded area behind the houses on Soleil Drive. The proximity to the crime scene was unsettling. The body was later confirmed to be Markello. His death was caused by a gunshot wound to the head. With that final shot, the criminal investigation was over. But justice was just beginning to escape them. Because a self-inflicted gunshot wound wasn't a confession. It was the final, devastating act of a story that would never get its day in court. The survivors and a call for change. While the investigation ended with Markello's death, the story was far from over. Nigeria's 2 children, Marquavius and Marlasia, began a new journey, the long road to recovery. Marquavius, the 24-year-old, was released from the hospital just a couple of days after the shooting, his progress a hopeful sign. But the recovery for 6-year-old Marlasia was just beginning. After days in a Memphis hospital, the little girl was finally ready to go home. And what happened next was a sight that brought a small measure of light to the grief-stricken community. A multi-county police procession with deputies from Shelby, DeSoto, Calma, and Tunica escorted Marlasia all the way home. It wasn't just an act of kindness. It was a promise. It was the community showing, in the most visual way possible, that they would stand with this family. The true weight of the tragedy, however, was in the words of a child. As she was getting ready to go home, a reporter asked her a simple question. Her response cut straight to the core of the loss. "I miss my mommy," she said. And her name is Nigeria Jude. A little girl's last words to the public weren't about what happened. They were about who she lost. That's the real cost of silence. So, if you're thinking about waiting to subscribe, just remember this. Nigeria's story is over. But if you don't act now, you might miss the next one. And that story might be closer to home than you think. In the wake of their grief, the family turned their sorrow into a powerful message. On a public fundraising page for Nigeria and her children, they made a plea. They talked about the crucial importance of mental health and the need to take domestic violence seriously. The case of Nigeria Jude and Markello Braxton isn't just about a murder. It's a question for all of us. What are we going to do with this truth? Are we going to turn away, or are we going to face it head on?
I miss my mommy, and her name is Nigeria Jude. Precious little girl, and now a story you'll only see on your news leader. The 6-year-old girl who was wounded during a deadly triple shooting last Friday in Tunica County is speaking out. That little girl was released from Le Bonheur Children's Hospital today.
Brave little girl.
Hello, I'm Greg Hurst.
I'm Stephanie Skurlock. WREG's Brian Didlake spoke with her and the family after she received a special convoy of police escorts all the way home.
I miss her so much. God love everybody. Amen.
Sending a prayer to her mother, Nikeria Jude, Marlasia Braxton is now back home with her grandparents in Coahoma County, Mississippi. Braxton released from Le Bonheur Children's Hospital earlier today after she, her mother, and her half-brother were shot this past Friday by her father, Markello Braxton. Jude died, but Marlasia and her brother, Marquavius, survived. He was released over the weekend. Tunica County Sheriff's Office, alongside deputies from the Shelby, DeSoto, and Coahoma County, escorted Marlasia home. The drive going through 4 counties with the handoff of the family through each county.
Oh, it made me feel so good, made me had to cry for all the love they showed around here by my house.
Officers say Marlasia's father, Markello Braxton, died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, his body found in a field. With both parents now gone, the family says Marlasia will be safe, but the reality of the loss of her mother, Nikeria, still stings.
She was a great person, inside and out. I mean, she had a smile to light up the room in every dim space or place.
The family also sent out a statement emphasizing mental health and the need to take domestic violence seriously. WRG Digging Deeper found that there were 7 domestic disturbance calls made to the Tunica County Sheriff's Office involving Nikeria and Braxton. The first call was July 28, 2015, and the most recent call came on March 10th of this year.
The support is very necessary, and the support is very special, and it's much needed.
Today, however, the family says their focus is on Marlasia and remembering a mother who made anyone feel at home.
Everyone who came across her became family with her. You know, it wasn't a friend, it was blood. So, long live my girl.
In Coahoma County, Mississippi, for your news leader, Brian Didlake, WREG.
The case of Nikeria Jude and Markello Braxton is a sobering reminder that danger doesn't always come from a stranger in the dark. Sometimes it builds up over a decade, hidden in plain sight. It's a reminder of the quiet courage it takes to escape a bad situation and the terrible price paid when that escape isn't fast enough. And most importantly, it's a testament to a family's strength to turn their unimaginable grief into a call for change. This story is here to serve as a warning. But if you've watched this far and still haven't subscribed, it makes you wonder what it's going to take. Maybe you're the type of person who needs to see the worst before you act. Prove me wrong and subscribe. Or don't. Go to the comments and tell us why you're not worried about the things we've been talking about. Let's talk about it. Nikeria Jude's name is now a part of her community's history, a somber reminder of a life cut short. Let's make sure her story isn't just a number on a police report, but a call to action. Like this video if you learned something, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to our channel to make sure you never miss another story that matters. This is the kind of story Unseen True Crime Stories is dedicated to sharing, not just for entertainment, but for vital, grim lessons. If this story stirred something in you, if it made you think, then you know you need to be here for the next one. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and if you're still scrolling past without joining, I have to ask, what truth are you afraid to face? What essential understanding are you willing to miss out on? Tell us in the comments. We'll be here, continuing to shed light on the shadows, because sometimes understanding the darkness is the only way to find the light. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and share.